Welcome back, friends. If you've ever typed "what color candle for love" into a search engine and gotten 17 different answers, all of them confident, all of them slightly different, this video is for you. Red, pink, white, orange. Depends which website, depends which tradition, depends which practitioner you ask on any given Tuesday. And if you're new to this is maddening. Here's the thing though. The goal was never to memorize a table of correspondences. If all you do is learn that green means money, and red means passion, and purple means psychic stuff, you're going to keep running into the same problem. Because the moment something doesn't fit the list, you are stuck. What I want to give you today is the logic behind color correspondences, where it actually comes from, why specific colors ended up meaning specific things, and, crucially, what to do when you don't have the right color. Because I promise you, that situation will come up, and there is a very good answer to it. By the end of this, you'll be able to look at any candle and make an informed decision about how to use it. You won't need the list. You'll understand the system well enough to work it out yourself. So, let's start at the beginning. Where does color magic actually come from? Most of what modern witchcraft teaches us about candle colors draws from 3 overlapping sources, and they don't always agree with each other, which is exactly why a Google search gives you conflicting answers. They're pulling from different wells. Once you know which well each association is drawing from, the contradictions mostly make sense. So let me give you the 3 roots, and then we'll go through the colors themselves. Root number 1, natural and elemental logic. The first root is simplest and goes back as far as human beings have been paying attention to the world around them. Red is the color of blood and fire, so it gets associated with life, energy, passion, danger. Blue is the color of water and sky, so it gets associated with calm, depth, emotion. Green is the color of growing things, so it maps to growth, abundance, healing, the natural world. Yellow is sunlight, clarity, warmth, intelligence. These associations aren't invented by any one tradition. They're almost universal because they come from the same source. Human beings living in a world full of color and learning to read it. You'll find versions of these in folk magic from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from the Americas. The specifics vary, but the logic is the same. This is the root that feels the most instinctive when you're working, because it is instinctive. Your nervous system already knows that red means something different from blue. Magic is partly the practice of taking that knowledge seriously. The second root is planetary magic, specifically the system of 7 classical planets that runs through Western astrology, Hermeticism, and the grimoire tradition stretching back to ancient Greece and ancient Rome. In this system, each of the 7 classical planets, Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn, rules over a domain of life, love, war, communication, luck, boundaries. Each planet has a day of the week, a set of correspondences, and a color. This is where things get more specific and sometimes more surprising. Green for Venus, which rules love and beauty, so green becomes a love color as much as a money color. Black for Saturn, which rules endings, time, and discipline. So black becomes the color of banishing and protection rather than evil. These are logical within the system, but they're not immediately obvious if you don't know the system exists. This is the tradition that a huge amount of formal Western magic draws from. Ceremonial magic, Wicca, astrology-based practices, among others. And it's the one that gives the color correspondence its most coherent internal logic. I'll go through the full planetary color map in a moment, because honestly, once you see it, a lot of things click into place. The third root is one that does not get talked about nearly enough in modern witchcraft spaces, and I want to be direct about it. A significant portion of what contemporary witchcraft, particularly online witchcraft, teaches about candle magic comes to us directly from hoodoo and conjure traditions. These are African American folk magic traditions, developed by enslaved people and their descendants, blending West African spiritual practices with European folk magic, indigenous knowledge, and Christianity. In the 20th century, spiritual supply companies, most famously in New Orleans and Chicago, began producing and selling candles specifically for magical use, with accompanying catalogs that described what each color was for. These catalogs spread across America and eventually around the world. A lot of what you'll read in a modern witchcraft book about candle colors is tracing back, either directly or indirectly, to that tradition. Now, I'm not saying this to make it complicated. I'm saying it because this tradition deserves to be named, and because knowing the origin helps you understand why certain color associations exist, particularly around things like road opening work, drawing in versus banishing, and uncrossing, which are very specifically hoodoo concepts that have drifted into general witchcraft language without their context. These are living traditions practiced by real communities today. They're worth learning about on their own terms, not just a source of techniques. So, when you search "what color candle for love" and get red, pink, green, and white as answers, that's not because everyone is making things up. It's because red comes from elemental logic and Mars's passionate energy. Pink comes from Venus and her softer register, which also comes from planetary tradition. Green comes from Venus's domain of love and beauty. White comes from lunar tradition and the idea of pure, open-hearted intention. They're all valid. They're just drawing from different parts of the map. And now that you know the map exists, you can make your own decisions about which part to draw from, based on what you're working toward, what you have available, and what feels right to you. Okay, so let's take a look at the most coherent of the three systems in more detail, the classical planets. Because this is the backbone of Western magical color work, and once you know it, you'll be able to plug and play it into your rituals and experience better results. Let's take a look at the planetary correspondences. Each planet rules a color, a day of the week, and has basically a theme that goes along with it. As we've discussed previously, this is rooted in Western astrology and esotericism. The sun, Sunday, golden yellow, success, confidence, vitality, and visibility. Moon, Monday, silver and white are its colors, and it governs intuition, dreams, cycles, and the subconscious. Mars rules Tuesday. It is affiliated with red, and it rules courage, conflict, protection, and ambition. Mercury is Wednesday, orange and yellow, communication, travel, humor, and contracts. Jupiter is Thursday, blue and purple, abundance, justice, expansion, and wisdom. Venus is Friday, green and pink, love, beauty, relationships, both romantic and non-romantic, and pleasure. Saturn rules Saturday, black and dark purple, boundaries, endings, discipline, banishing. Putting this into practical use, let's say you want to work with Venus. Plan that working for a Friday using a green or pink candle, and you have 3 layers of correspondences stacked. That's not superstition, that is intentional symbolic layering. The more coherent your symbolism, the more focused your intention, and the more likely you will be to have success in your working. Now, because I am not initiated into hoodoo and similar cultural traditions, I will not be going over the hoodoo color theory and correspondences. However, it is critical to understand that the color associations that we have today are largely based on hoodoo traditions, which came to the U.S. via the transatlantic slave trade from Africa and the Caribbean. Okay, so now we know where the system comes from. Let's actually go through the colors. And I want to do this properly, not just a list. For each one, I want to give you the meaning, a bit of the why, and one concrete thing you'd actually use it for. Because red means passion is not useful to you on its own. Let's go in Roy G. Biv order. Red. This is probably the one that people feel most uncertain about. It gets associated with love spells, and then people worry they're doing something manipulative. So let me reframe it. Red isn't really about romantic love. That's more Pink's territory, which we will get to. Red is about fire itself. Drive, momentum, the energy that gets things moving. It's Mars, the planet of action and courage. In almost every tradition that uses color and magic, red is the color of vitality and will. So you'd reach for red when you need to push through something hard, a difficult conversation, something you've been procrastinating on. Protection, because red also has a strong protective quality in folk traditions, particularly in Mediterranean and South Asian cultures where red thread wards off evil. If you're feeling stuck, flat, depleted, use red. If you need a bit of courage, red. It's not just for romance. Orange sits between red and yellow, and it kind of behaves like that too. It's got red's energy, but yellow's brightness. It's the color of attraction and opportunity. Not in a love sense necessarily, more like drawing good things toward you, the right people, the right circumstances, opening doors. It's also very good for creativity and ambition. If you're working on a creative project, or you need to be seen, like you've got a pitch, an audition, a job interview, orange is genuinely excellent for that. In Hoodoo tradition, orange is often used in road opening work, clearing the path ahead. I really like that framing. It's not forcing anything, it's just opening the road. Yellow is sunshine, and it works exactly like you'd expect sunshine to work. It lifts, it clarifies, it illuminates. This is your candle for studying, for mental clarity, for making a decision when you can't see clearly. It's associated with both the sun and Mercury, so it covers confidence and communication. If you're writing something important, or you need to think through a problem, yellow is very quietly useful. It's also a genuinely good candle for low mood, not as a replacement for anything medical, but as a ritual act of inviting light in. There's something psychologically real about sitting with a warm yellow flame when everything feels gray. Green is the one that causes the most confusion in beginners because it does a lot. Growth, abundance, healing, nature, money. And people want to know which one it really means. The answer is all of them, because they're all the same thing at the root. Green is the color of life growing, of things increasing, of nature doing what nature does, which is continuously produce, heal, and expand. Money is just one form of abundance. Healing is just the body growing back toward wholeness. So if you're working with anything in the domain of growth, finances, health, a project expanding, a garden, a relationship deepening, green is your color. Venus rules it, which is why it also covers love and beauty, and Earth rules it, which is why it covers physical and material concerns, and why it is featured prominently on US dollars. It is a very hard-working color. Keep some green on hand. Blue is the color of water and sky, depth and expanse. And it works in two slightly different registers depending on the shade, which is worth knowing, I think. Light blue, pale, soft, is calming, emotional, lunar. Good for sleep, for soothing anxiety, for emotional healing after something difficult. Very gentle energy. Deeper blue, royal blue, cobalt, is more Jupiterian. Wisdom, justice, truth, expansion of the mind. If you are working on something where you want some clarity about what's actually true in a situation, in yourself for example, you want to go with a deeper blue. Blue is also traditionally used in protection magic, particularly in the Mediterranean. Think of the blue evil eye beads, blue doors. There's a very old thread of blue as protective across many cultures. It is a quietly powerful color that gets underestimated because it doesn't have the drama of red or the mystique of purple. Purple is where things get interesting. It sits right at the edge of the visible spectrum, which is appropriate because it's the color associated with edges of ordinary perception, psychic ability, spiritual connection, communication with ancestors and spirits, deepening your practice. Historically, purple was extraordinarily expensive to produce. Tyrian purple came from sea snails, and only royalty and priests could afford it. So it carries centuries of association with power, spirituality, and access to things beyond the ordinary. If you're doing divination, tarot, scrying, pendulum work, purple is a natural companion. If you're meditating with a specific intention, or working to deepen your intuition, or trying to connect with something beyond the physical, use purple. It's also personally one of my favorites to just have burning in the background when I'm reading or doing anything that requires a kind of quiet concentration. There's just something about it. Pink is Venus in her softest register. Where red is passion and drive, pink is tenderness and care. This is the love candle, but specifically the kind of love that isn't about possession or urgency. Affection, friendship, self-compassion. A pink candle for a self-care ritual is one of the most underrated things in witchcraft. Sitting with a pink candle and genuinely directing warmth toward yourself, not as a performance, just as a quiet act, is a legitimate and meaningful practice. Especially if self-love is something you find difficult, which for many people, it really is. Pink is also good for mending relationships, not forcing reconciliation, but softening things, opening the heart a little bit. Where red pushes, pink invites. White is the one that should always be in your cupboard, because white contains all colors and can substitute for any of them. This isn't a workaround or a compromise, it's the actual magical logic. White is pure potential. It takes whatever intention you bring to it. It's also strongly lunar, the full moon, intuition, the subconscious, cycles. White candles for new and full moon rituals are extremely traditional across many paths. And for cleansing, clearing a space, starting fresh after something difficult, marking a new beginning. White is the obvious choice. It just feels clean. Sometimes the symbolism is right in front of you and you don't need to overthink it. Okay, black, my favorite color. I want to spend a little bit more time here because this is the one that makes people nervous. And I think that nervousness comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of what black actually does. Black is not darkness in a moral sense. Black is the color of Saturn, the planet of boundaries, discipline, structure, and endings. And what does black do physically? It absorbs. It takes in. It doesn't radiate outward. It draws inward and neutralizes. That is what a black candle does in magic. It absorbs what you want to be rid of. Bad energy, a situation that's dragging on, a habit you can't shake, the lingering weight of something that is over. You burn a black candle to release it, to mark an ending, to say, this is done now, and I'm not carrying it any further. That, my friend, is protective. That's deeply, fundamentally protective. A black candle on your altar is armor. It's a boundary made visible. The association with evil comes from the same historical propaganda we talked about earlier, the deliberate darkening of folk practice by institutions that wanted to discredit it. In actual practice, across actual traditions, black is a color of power, protection, and the wisdom that comes from having passed through difficulty. If you are seeing parallels to harmful systems in place, there is a reason for that. As W. Kamau Bell taught us, do the work, and the results will be wonderful. Don't be afraid of black. It is one of the most useful and powerful colors that you own. Brown is the color everyone forgets about, and I think that is a shame. Brown is soil. It is the earth itself. It's grounding in the most literal sense, connecting to the physical, to stability, to home. If you're going through a period of anxiety or disconnection, feeling scattered, unmoored, unreal, a brown candle and some time spent just breathing and feeling the floor under your feet is genuinely good magic. It's not glamorous. It doesn't have the drama of purple or the fiery passion of red. But sometimes what you actually need is to come back to earth. And brown candles are very good at exactly that. Also excellent for anything to do with home, with pets and animals, with practical material concerns. Not money in an expansive sense, but stability, security, roots. Silver is white's more perfect sibling. Where white is all-purpose lunar energy, silver is very specifically the moon. It's light, its cycles, its pull on the tides, and on us. Silver is particularly good for dream work, for anything involving the subconscious or psychic ability, and for lunar rituals timed to specific moon phases. If you're tracking your own emotional cycles alongside the moon, which is a practice I would recommend, a silver candle is a lovely companion for that work. It also carries an association with what some traditions call feminine energy, not in the gendered sense, but in the receptive, intuitive, inward turning sense, as opposed to gold's outward, solar, projecting quality. And then we have gold, which is the sun-made solid, pure solar energy, success, confidence, achievement, being seen, stepping into your full power. Gold is not shy, and it doesn't do subtle. If you need to show up fully, a big presentation, a performance, a moment where you need to be completely present and radiating, gold. If you're working on long-term success, on building something that lasts and people notice, go for the gold. It's also wonderful for gratitude rituals, actually. Lighting a gold candle in acknowledgement of what's already going well. The sun shines regardless. Gold is a way of mirroring that energy back. So, 12 colors, 12 different ways of focusing intention, of telling your subconscious what you're working toward, of layering your symbolic language until it all points in the same direction. Now, what do you do when you don't have the right one? So here's the situation. You've decided you want to do a spell. You know you want a green candle, abundance, growth, all of that. You go to your candle drawer or your bedside table or whatever pile of miscellaneous household objects you're working with, and you have a birthday cake candle, half a white pillar from 2 moves ago, and a vanilla scented thing from a gift set that you received in the office white elephant gift exchange. Does that mean that you can't do the spell? No, absolutely not. And I want to explain why, properly. Because the answer isn't just, it's fine, don't worry. The answer is rooted in what color magic is actually doing. A color candle is not a magical ingredient. It's not like a recipe where if you leave out the egg, the whole thing collapses. It's a focusing tool. It's a way of directing energy and putting that energy out into the world. The color works because you look at it and your brain makes associations, and those associations deepen your intention. That is the mechanism. So the question isn't, do I have the right color? The question is, can I create that focus another way? And the answer to that is almost always yes. White, as we talked about, is the universal option. White contains all colors. That's not poetry, that's literally how white works. When you use a white candle with a specific intention, you're not settling for second best. You're using the most versatile tool in the kit. That's why I have transitioned to white for gin and tonic candles, because they are all-purpose, leaving you to add in color to match your personal intent wherever you see fit. Now, you may not want to have colored candles at home. I certainly don't. Candle dyes negatively affect your home's indoor air quality. Candle dyes are known to release phthalates and other harmful VOCs, or volatile organic compounds, into the air. That is why gin and tonic candles are dye-free. Any perceived color comes from the natural color of the essential oils used to fragrance our candles. If you don't care about that, however, here are some alternatives to using colored candles, and also here's how you can incorporate color when you have a white tin. Number 1, use white, always, without apology. Hold the candle, think of the color you wanted, and set your intention clearly. The white becomes whatever you need it to be. Mark it with color. A colored marker or pen drawn in this stripe down the side of a white candle. A ribbon in the proper color tied around the base. Color paper underneath it. You're adding the symbolic layer without needing the whole candle to be that color. This works because the symbol is the point. The physical object is just carrying it. A white candle in a green glass holder on a green cloth surrounded by green stones or leaves. You've built the color correspondence into the environment rather than into the candle itself. The overall scene is still pointing in the right direction. As you light your candle, close your eyes for a moment and see the color you want in your mind. See the flame as that color. Hold it for a few breaths. This is more demanding and it requires more mental focus, but it's also more direct. You're doing the correspondence work internally rather than outsourcing it to the candle. Now, if you really can't make it work, candles are not the only way in. A crystal in the right color, an herb associated with your intention, writing your intention on colored paper and burning it safely. The candle is a vessel for intention, but it's not the only one. The broader principle here, and I want to say this clearly, is that witchcraft does not require a well-stocked cupboard. It never did. Folk magic, the magic that ordinary people have always practiced, was built from whatever was available. Whatever was in the kitchen, in the garden, on the windowsill. This is also a principle tenet of my own practice. Use what you have. The idea that you need exactly the right candle, the exactly right crystal, the exactly right moon phase, or you're doing it wrong, that is a very modern, very consumerist version of this practice. And I would gently encourage you to be suspicious of it. What you actually need is clarity about what you want, genuine intention behind it, and enough focus to hold that intention through the ritual. Everything else is in service of that. If it helps you focus, use it. If you don't have it, find something that does a similar job or do the work with nothing but your own attention. So, what do you think? Were you surprised by any of this? Drop a comment below and let me know what your favorite color is. It really does help a lot. And be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want someone to walk beside you every step of the way on your journey. Every accusation is a confession. Free Palestine. Protect the First Amendment. Justice for Casey Goodson Jr. And do not let up on the Epstein files. Survivors deserve justice, even though it's been a wild week. Until next week.